Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first of 3 webinars as part of Planet Geo's summer series. Today's webinar is titled, Nonprofit Associations Integrate Tree Plotter into Everyday Workflow. We have a great lineup of presenters for the series, starting with professionals in the nonprofit sector. We have Daria Goszyla from Friends of Grand Rapids Park, Michigan, and Hal McMath of Industrial District Green in Los Angeles. My name is Chris Pfeiffer, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. And before we get started, I just wanted to go through a couple logistics. This webinar is being recorded in case you're not able to catch the entire webinar, or if you'd like to refer to it in the future or share it with others. And I'll be sending that link out to all attendees as well as the ones that registered. Also, International Society of Arboriculture, CEU information will be sent to attendees and anyone that watches the recording in the future. During the presentations by Daria and Hal, I'll be looking at the chat box for any immediate comments or questions, but we'll also be addressing those at the end of the webinar. And if you stick around, once the webinar is completed, there will be an optional survey for you to check out and rate the presentation, the presenters, as well as the technology, and some general questions that are all optional. So for today's webinar, dealing with nonprofits and how they work with Tree Plotter in their everyday programs, we're going to start off with the introductions of the speakers and then lead into just a brief overview of Planet Geo and the Tree Plotter application that both Grand Rapids Parks and Industrial District Green use. Then I'll turn it over to Daria, who will talk about how she uses it in her program and her overall program and efforts in Michigan. And after that, Hal will talk about his work in Industrial District Green. Then I'll turn it back over to me, who will provide a brief summary, and then we'll open it up to comments and questions. So Daria Goszyla is an urban forest project coordinator for the Friends of Grand Rapids Park, and she has a Bachelor of Science in Natural Resources Management from Grand Valley State. After that, she has over six years of nonprofit and local government experience, where she later joined Friends of Grand Rapids Park in 2015. And one quote that really stuck out to me in terms of technology and tree management software, that all of which Planet Geo is involved with, is what she states as, her role is to facilitate a culture where active data management guides decisions. Hal McMath is the co-founder and executive director of Industrial District Green in Los Angeles, and he's a graduate from USC and a graduate of Institute of International Affairs in Geneva. From there, he took on a career in institutional money management, and he's been across the country with large institutional firms, and his interest in the Skid Row related issues began in 2010. Since then, he's been working to reduce crime, unsanitary streets, and improve lighting in those areas of Skid Row. And all those efforts led to the launch of Industrial District Green in 2012. As moderator, Chris Pfeiffer here, I'm the Director of Urban Forestry Consulting for Planet Geo. We're based out of Denver or Arvada, Colorado, but we have offices in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where I'm located, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina, Southeast Wisconsin, and San Diego, California. I'm an ISA certified arborist, and my role with Planet Geo is mainly plan writing using tree inventory data and tree canopy assessments to write urban forest management plans, inventory summary reports, and a variety of other reports, as well as manage and oversee all projects dealing with urban forestry and provide that urban forestry context for our software developers, our GIS technicians, and analysts. So you can see we have a variety of different roles that Planet Geo plays in terms of our staff, and I'll get into just a brief summary of our services. Planet Geo deals with anything involving urban forestry and natural resource management, from GIS and remote sensing, and that deals with the urban tree canopy assessments, or a top-down look at tree canopy, where it exists and where it could exist as far as planting areas. And what we'll really focus on with today's webinar is the urban forest cloud, and I'll get into just a few details of the urban forest cloud with Planet Geo. But we also get involved with on-the-ground tree inventories and risk assessments using the ISA track protocols. And we also work with the iTree U.S. Forest Service suite of tools in building up and analyzing ecosystem services. With our GIS and remote sensing, we do the canopy and forestry analyses, and also taking that data and building management plans and resource management planning overall. And oftentimes, to develop the content for those plans, we facilitate or are directly involved with training, workshops, and surveys. So this is just a brief overview of the Urban Forest Cloud, and I want to touch on the presenters. We'll be describing their program, but also describing how they use Tree Plotter and work order management and other modules to perform their daily work and tasks. So you see that there's a variety of different modules to Tree Plotter, whether it be to inventory your parks or to deal with day-to-day work orders for taking care and maintaining trees, and then also other types of modules to Tree Plotter. And this is just an example of the types of plans that we use, and most of these involve tree inventory on the ground data or the top-down urban tree canopy assessment data, because starting out with a baseline and a forest resource assessment is crucial to any type of plan that a community or organization conducts. So we've been heavily involved with tree inventories as well. That's on the ground, measuring the size, the condition, and the species, and any type of risk to those trees. And this just gives you an example of the extent of our tree inventory services using Tree Plotter, which will be presented today. And before we get into Friends of Grand Rapids and Industrial District Green's presentation, just want to give you the background on Tree Plotter so that you are familiar with how it functions and the technology that's involved with Tree Plotter. So Tree Plotter, it does not require any kind of download or installation. Instead, it's subscription-based, web and cloud-based browsers, and all you need to use this is a web connection. Then you simply go to your app's URL, type it into your browser, and you're able to access that software application. And then different login structures and levels allow users to do certain things, and it gives permissions to users based on their login. And Tree Plotter is useful on desktops and can be used with tablets and smartphones. So the screens are optimized based on the screen size. And instead of using GPS devices to get the location and to pinpoint a tree that's on the ground, we use map-based spatial data, so it's built into the imagery itself, and we use the spatial information in the pixels of the base maps to get your XY coordinates and your spatial information. And as I said, with administration, you have different login levels, so an admin user can have more permission and access to the data to add and change information in Tree Plotter. This is just a brief overview of the components to Tree Plotter with the different types of mapping tools that you see in the top left as far as the buttons. You're able to create reports and charts based on the data in your Tree Plotter, and you're able to edit it, whether you want to edit in an Excel type table that's online, or you can edit within the map itself by clicking a tree point. Then we have a series of visuals that are within the legend, so that you can view the symbology for trees such as trees by their size, their DBH, or you can look at trees by condition. And that way you can start to look at different trends and areas where condition is poor, or there are a lot of little and younger trees that may need attention as far as watering or removing stakes and ties. And the most basic element to Tree Plotter is the capability to add and move trees. And that button's up in the top right. And so that's where you get your start for your inventory. If you're starting fresh, you simply are out in the field with your tablet. You zoom and orient yourself to your location. You click that add button, and then you use your finger or stylus, and you click the center of that tree canopy, and then the point appears. Then after that, you have a tree details pop up. So that's any field and value that you want associated and you want collected for your tree. That pops up so you can enter or update the information. And that tree details box you can see in the bottom right. And I'm just going to give an overview. I mentioned earlier that Tree Plotter is modular, so that maybe you don't want all the bells and whistles to it. You just want a simple tree inventory software. You have that with Tree Plotter, but Hal will talk a little bit about work order management. Then we have other modules such as the Emerald Ash Borer Cost Calculator and Scenario Tool, a more public-friendly interface to get users and the public engaged and involved. Maybe they track some of the activities that they do. They watered their tree that's out in front of their yard. And then we also deal with more technical things such as tree appraisals, the ISA track, tree protection zone, and there's a variety of other modules as well. Then a little different than tree inventory data and Tree Plotter is Canopy Planner, but it can still be a module where we use that urban tree canopy assessment information to look at the distribution of canopy maybe across citywide by neighborhood, and you can start to see where tree canopy is lacking and where the opportunity exists. And I just wanted to mention that there is a demo app, so that once you see this presentation and you get a feel for how an organization can use this information for their daily work, you can go to the Tree Plotter demo app and give it a try. You can add, remove trees, update fields, create reports, do different filters to find maybe trees greater than 18 inches that are in poor condition. So you can start to find where those trees are that need attention, and just get a feel for how you could possibly use Tree Plotter. And I won't go into detail here, but there are tons of different resources so that anyone can pick this up and learn it, and you're able to, whether it be contacting us directly or attending these different Tree Plotter webinars or YouTube videos. There's a lot of options out there. So with that overview, I want to now turn it over to Daria, who's the Urban Forestry Project Coordinator for Friends of Grand Rapids Park. And what I have on this screen is just a screenshot of their Tree Plotter application. And I'm going to switch screens so that way she can take over and present her program and how she uses it.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to share my screen here, load it up. A couple clicks away. Yeah, like Chris said, I want to facilitate a culture of active data management, especially in forestry operations. So really excited to talk to everyone today about our usage of the Tree Plotter and the impetus as to why we made our over 70,000 points of tree data available to our community. So like Chris said, I'm from Friends of Grand Rapids Parks. We are based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is the second largest city in Michigan by population. I'm going to talk to you about our usage of the Tree Plotter. I'm going to provide a lot of examples and I'm probably going to go really fast. So hopefully it'll be a little inspiring journey for all of us. And if I'm going too fast, Chris, just interject and tell me to slow down a little bit. What you can expect today,
you got
I'm going to go into a little overview about Friends of Grand Rapids Park. I'll delve into information about our urban forest project, a little history, more information about our really robust citizen forester program that we have here. And then I'm going to provide, again, a lot of examples about our usage of the tree plotter. Our website, which I don't have on there, but it is urbanforestproject.com. So if anyone wants to browse while I'm over here chatting, feel free. Friends of Grand Rapids Parks is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2008. We work very closely with the city of Grand Rapids, but we're still separate entities. That allows us to apply for a lot of diverse grant funding and uplift each other, help each other with volunteer coordination and projects. We work to identify specific park projects. Our main objective is to mobilize people and generate stewards in our community. We generate resources to protect, enhance, and expand our city's parks, public spaces, and our urban forests. We have two leading citizen science programs, the Parks Alive Leaders program, which is geared more towards uplifting park stewards and advocating towards maintaining things like garden beds, rain gardens, coordinating park cleanups within our community parks and green spaces. And then the Urban Forest Project, which I coordinate, which is geared towards replanting efforts after we were hit with emerald ash borer and uplifting citizen foresters that plant and maintain trees in our community. A little bit more about the Urban Forest Project. There's our beautiful skyline of the west side of Grand Rapids, which is one of our neighborhoods that has a pretty decent canopy cover. I think it's a really beautiful image. Let that soak in a little bit. The Grand Rapids Urban Forest Project seeks to engage our entire community in growing and maintaining a healthier, larger urban forest. In 2011, the Urban Forest Project was founded. We, as a city, created an amendment to our master plan that established a 40% tree canopy cover goal. We're at about 34% right now in Grand Rapids. We recognize that we need to involve citizens in expanding our urban tree canopy. So Friends of Grand Rapids Parks and the City of Grand Rapids launched the Urban Forest Project as a partnership. It really started by Grand Rapids citizens that were concerned with saving some ash trees before the emerald ash borer hit our community. So we were able to save over 400 trees, more closer to 500 actually. What the Urban Forest Project does when someone asks, what do you guys really do? I say we provide three services to our community. We offer web-based resources. We track community forestry progress on many different metrics that I'll go over. And we provide community engagement opportunities to our Grand Rapids area residents. So a couple examples, because I really like providing examples and visuals. Our web-based resources, again, urbanforestproject.com. We provide guides and fact sheets, so you can find things like our Grand Rapids approved tree species list. We do have a bit of a diversity problem. We have a lot of maples in our community, so we want the public to be aware of that. We want people to diversify our forest to make sure that we are resilient to combating any disease or pests that might come through again. We provide tree owner manuals. We provide resources on right tree, right place principles. We also offer mini-grant opportunities, a mini-grant opportunity for the community, and then there's also a mini-grant opportunity for reforesting public schools after emerald ash borer, and that program is called Planting for Our Future. The tree plotter can also be found on our website, and then we have links and reports. We also have a Find an Arborist application, and we have our pretty robust blog, which is called Seedlings. Very cute, and I'll kind of talk about one of our blog features as well. We track progress, so we do have a Grand Rapids Urban Forest Project report card. Those metrics we developed 2 years ago in 2015. We track canopy cover, forest health, tree planting efforts, and community engagement. So that report can also be found on our website if anyone is interested in kind of tracking your urban forestry project on a holistic level, from planting efforts to community engagement, but as well as incorporating that quantitative analysis, that canopy cover in there. We have links to our assessment of urban tree canopy in Grand Rapids, and there's our canopy planner, a little screenshot of that. I'll use that in an example as well. And our extensive community engagement efforts. We have a citizen forester program. We offer volunteering through tree plantings and through our After Work Tree Time series. So tree plantings are in spring and fall, and then our After Work Tree Time series is in the summer. Planting for Our Future, like I said previously, is our planting efforts on public school properties. We fund community orchards in our neighborhood. We provide neighborhood support through neighborhood strategic planning. That's for forestry, neighborhood forestry strategic planning. We actually are working with 6 neighborhoods, having them utilize the tree plotter, their tree inventory, to kind of create neighborhood-specific master plans for forestry. And then they are able to apply for funding for tree plantings or able to come to us with tree concerns for maintenance. We do a couple tree giveaways, and then our annual events, as most communities, we have an Arbor Day and Neighborhoods event. We also have the Mayor's Tree of the Year, which is a fun event in our community that's been going on for about 7 years. And then we have the Brewers Grove Project, which started in 2013, and we're known as Beer City USA, and our brewers wanted to give back to our community. So they have been planting trees with us since 2013, and they gather resources, they gather funding for their tree planting through brewing beers that have a specific tree component. So maybe it's a brew aged in an oak barrel, and for a month they'll have it on tap, and $1 of each pint sold goes towards tree planting. So they've fully funded up to 100 trees in our community and planted them themselves. So it's a cool program. Our Citizen Forester program, I always say, is probably one of the most expensive in the nation. We, by the time someone graduates as a Citizen Forester, they will have completed at least 12 hours with us. They have to take a tree planting class where we go over species diversity. We go over how to maintain trees that are newly planted, how to properly plant a tree, stock, all of those things. They take a tree ID class, which also has an outdoor component, and a quiz at the end. Pruning and maintenance class, how to properly make those proper prunes, making sure we're not stub cutting, making sure more people are out there, knowing that they have to pull a permit if they want to prune a tree in front of their yard. We're really concerned about oak wilt in our community as well, so we're just making sure that people know how to properly prune and maintain trees. And then our urban forest advocacy class, which is called Branching Out. Our in-the-field trainings are tree plantings, spring and fall. You are required to do an outdoor field training to become a citizen forester, and then an after tree time, which is our pruning session throughout the summer or as needed. Sometimes we host them. We host oak pruning sessions in the winter. Here's a beautiful map of all of our citizen foresters. The darker the neighborhood, the more citizen foresters. The darker green the neighborhood, the more citizen foresters there are. It shows graduates and trainees. Trainees are in white and graduates are in the yellow star. So we have over 78 citizen forester graduates, an additional 386 that have taken one or more citizen forester class. Citizen foresters are constant advocates and leaders for trees in our community. Their responsibilities include helping educate, advocate, provide support for neighborhood-based tree projects. They volunteer at after tree times. I have a couple citizen foresters that have now they like pruning trees more than planting trees. And, you know, I always say if I can get them to say they like watering more than pruning, then I'm really doing something right. So hopefully we'll get there someday. Tree plantings, just a couple stats to kind of give you the scale that we're working on. We planted 634 1.5 caliber trees throughout Grand Rapids just this spring season, probably that much, if not more, coming up this fall, representing a wide variety of species, including eastern redbud, horse chestnut, serviceberry, many varieties of oak, tulip, poplar, many more. We were able to plant trees in 9 neighborhoods and 4 schools with 670 volunteers this spring. A couple fun images from a couple of the plantings. And our after-work tree times are hands-on pruning sessions. This summer we've been able to crown raise 370 trees and maintain 104 trees. So maintaining trees means reestablishing berms, eliminating competition, weeds that might be growing in the base of the tree, watering trees that might need some supplemental water, adding gator bags, that sort of thing. So the series is averaging about 30.8 young trees pruned per session. And our capacity for pruning and maintaining trees is very contingent on the amount of volunteers and community engagement that we have, as well as if the volunteers have been trained in pruning. So let's dive right into it. Tree plotter. We've kind of been using the phrase "discover the forest in your own backyard" to promote the usage of our tree plotter. The Grand Rapids tree plotter was launched in 2007. Or in July 2017, sorry. It has Grand Rapids Complete Street Tree Inventory, which was completed in November 2016, and it's updated with our fall 2016 and fall 2017 planting season. It also hosts the Grand Rapids Parks and Cemetery Tree Inventory. For community engagement, we use the tree plotter to feature trees that are in bloom. We also have used it for our Mayor's Tree of the Year competition. We also have used it for the Richmond Park Tree ID, which we do 3 times a year at Richmond Park or at Blandford Nature Center here in our community. And then neighborhood associations and citizen foresters can identify potential planting locations and then apply for our Urban Forest Project mini grants through the tree plotter. We can also identify after-work tree time routes and options using the tree plotter. And then there's a couple other potential projects on the horizon that we could use the tree plotter for. I think I'm realizing that I might have not the most up-to-date version of my slides here. So I'm going to just take a peek here real quick. This is not the most up to date. Let me pull up my my PDF that I sent to Chris earlier.
And while you look for that, I just wanted to give a little more background. We started with Grand Rapids on the tree canopy assessment and the report, and it's great to now we identified those areas where plantings can occur, but now Tree Plotter takes it a step further where the neighborhood associations and citizen foresters are now being able to go to those areas that are on a large scale and narrow it down to actual sites on the ground that work where there aren't obstructions, overhead wires or underground utilities. There's ample planting space or the opportunity to create more space for them, and getting trees in the ground. And they're able to apply for the Urban Forest Project mini grants to make it happen. So it's we're really fortunate to see everything as far as gathering data being used and real results coming from it with trees getting put into the ground.
Right, a nice full circle there.
Right.
Does this work, Chris? I seem to not be able to open it up in a non-web-based version, but I'm going to just go with this. So Tree Plotter, we've been kind of gaming the phrase, discover the forest in your own backyard. It has been an impetus for a new blog feature called Mappy Monday. So if you go on urbanforestproject.com, there's a blog tab right at the top of the screen. In this blog series, we explore the wonderful world of trees, data, and maps. We offer Tree Plotter tutorials and uses for our citizen foresters and interested residents in Grand Rapids. We show off our planting season through maps and data. It's an opportunity to feature sponsors. Bad Elf is one of our sponsors. They provide GPS units for us to actually be able to collect our planting data that we then incorporate into the plotter. It also provides an opportunity to feature technology needs for our work. So sometimes we'll get sponsors that just want to provide useful tools for us, and it's a good way to help people our accomplishments, but also our challenges. Tree Plotter Grand Rapids, there's our URL, pgcloud.com/Grand Rapids, and the intro screen, there's 4 different options. For our tree map, there's the option for our canopy planner, and there's an option for tree tours. So we were actually able to really customize this open page and make a little PDF that brings you to links of interactive tree tours. We have a tree tour of our Mayor's Tree of the Years, a tree tour of a couple college campuses, and a tree tour of our tree beer breweries. Here's our canopy planner that's also integrated into the tree plotter. We use our canopy planner to identify neighborhoods that are below average in tree canopy and above average, or slightly below maybe, but around 25% for possible planting area. And that's kind of how we identify neighborhoods that could use some reforestation efforts or some community engagement. We also use the tree plotter in our This Week in Bloom feature. So once a week, May through August, we feature a tree that's in bloom in our community, and we just write a couple of posts about it. We send it out in newsletters and in our blog. And the tree plotter allows us to actually find that tree species online. So we're able to select it and then save a custom interactive map for it, and then we're able to link that map into our post so that someone can identify the tree in bloom in their own neighborhood, see where the closest golden rain is in East Hills, for instance. The tree plotter has also been used for Mayor's Tree of the Year. So each year, the Mayor of Grand Rapids, the city's Urban Forestry Committee, and the Grand Rapids Urban Forest Project honor a mature local tree for its years of service and continuing contributions to the health and well-being of our community. During this official tree hugging ceremony, the mayor announces the Tree of the Year, highlights its rich history and return on investments that it provides. And this year, since it was the first year we had the tree plotter, the nominations are actually due August 1st, but we noticed that people were using the tree plotter to provide more details on their tree. They were we asked that everyone provides a photo with their tree nomination. They were actually just using the street view, and they were using the iTree eco benefits that are available on the tree plotter to showcase how much pollution was removed, to really make their nomination shine. And then we were able to also use the plotter to gain more information on other trees that have been nominated, to confirm DBH, and to confirm species of the nominated tree. We didn't believe that there was an Osage orange in one of the nominators that had nominated the tree, and lo and behold, it was an Osage orange. I'm going to do a little example of how we use the tree plotter for our tree ID classes. So this example is from Richmond Park in our north side of Grand Rapids, northwest community. We do a lot of tree ID walks. It's a requirement of our Citizen Forester program. We do winter tree ID, summer tree ID. We get foresters and arborists from around the area to co-host those walks. It's a fun and engaging kind of activity, but it requires a lot of planning. So we've been using the plotter to really specifically keen in on areas that we want to do tree walks on, make sure that there's enough diversity, see how many trees we're working with. So for Richmond Park, we added the address and the search engine, brought us right up to Richmond Park. We actually hosted the class in a little lodge that's right there. We filtered by map. And then it showed us the trees that are in Richmond Park. So we're able to scroll in the legend to see which species are within our selection and how many of each species. We can customize what we see by selecting the species that we want. We're able to create tours and descriptions of trees ahead of time. It really saves us a lot of time and energy to just run around in the field to identify these routes. Then we can use the stats bar as another way to explore the trees. We can save graphs and tables for future use or reference. We explore all of the drop-downs to see other stats about the trees. We can see what the most common tree is in Richmond Park. We can see the most common genus in Richmond Park. We can identify the largest tree or the smallest tree with just a couple of clicks. And then, of course, we can explore the attributes of each individual tree to let our citizen foresters and stewards know about the benefits that each tree provides. The tree plotter has given us the opportunity to provide new citizen forester perks. So citizen foresters can now request a login for the tree app. Maybe they're someone that's really interested in planning a tree planting or in planning an afterwork tree time, or maybe they just really are interested in GIS and data. So they can now save custom interactive maps and scenarios to share with their neighbors, get people pumped up about trees in their community. They can identify what trees need to be pruned, where are good planting locations, maintenance needs, and other information. We only have DBH and the common name of the tree available to the public, so you need a special login to get more information about trees, like the maintenance field and the status field. So if a citizen forester requests that, I give them a little training on it, and then they're good to go. And they end up bringing me back information, which just grows our project here. We have a tree plotter training coming up September 12th, which we're all getting very excited about, especially Audrey, who's our GIS professional here. Citizen foresters, neighborhood associations, and neighborhood groups can identify potential planting locations and apply for our Urban Forest Project mini grants to plant trees in their neighborhoods. So I teach everyone how to delineate an area that they're working in, and then they can learn information about that area, about the species that are currently there, maybe some diversity problems that are happening there, some maintenance needs, but they can delineate the area that they want to apply for tree planting in. It's just some photos of past tree plantings that were neighborhood-based, a resident applied for. And then by having the status field, you can select proposed sites. So we have proposed site large, medium, and small. And applicants can select that. And then they can see how many potential planting sites there are in the zone that they actually want to work in. And then I ask them to count the amount of large, medium, and small sites. And that gives me an idea of species selection for the planting. And the more data that they can provide me in their application, the more likely that my committee will approve the mini grant. Usually the more data means that they're very invested, and I like nothing more than having individuals that are invested in their urban forest. Citizen foresters can also help identify pruning routes for our Afterwork Tree Time series. They can delineate their neighborhoods, identify specific trees within the maintenance field. Here's an example of Henry and James Street. The problem here was due to school and nearby churches. This is a giant public school here and a church here and another church here. This was identified as an area with high pedestrian traffic, but it also had many small-sized trees that had been planted right after the hit of emerald ash borer. So they really needed to be crown raised to address clearance issues and sidewalks. So we can delineate that area right there. And then we can use the DBH range field to kind of identify the smaller trees that were probably the younger trees that have been planted in the last couple of years. And then we can see what species of trees there are. Of course, we don't want to prune oaks because our community is being affected by oak wilt. During the spring and summer months, we want to wait until winter, so we want to identify those trees, let all the volunteers know that we're not pruning that tree ahead of time. We can click on individual points to see exactly what we're dealing with. Oh, we're dealing with a calorie pear. All right, so maybe it'll tell me what kind of equipment I really need to bring out. Other potential projects on the horizon, we have hemlock woolly adelgid. It's been found in 4 counties in Michigan along the Lake Michigan shoreline in Allegan, Muskegon, Oceana, and Ottawa counties, if you're familiar. If not, I'll provide a map in the next slide. It's native to Asia. Hemlock woolly adelgid is a small aphid-like insect that threats the health and sustainability of eastern hemlock in Michigan. So here's a little potential project I'm working on with my citizen foresters. We want to ensure that we maintain hemlocks in our ecosystems. It's a keystone species in Michigan. It has a small impact on streamside habitat conditions and stream health. The loss of hemlock could result in a rise in water temperatures in streams and really increase in soil erosion. The long-term negative effects include reduction in property values and a decline in tourism revenues because a lot of these hemlocks are along the lakeshore. Grand Rapids is about 40 miles from where hemlock woolly adelgid has been detected, so it's along the lakeshore here, and we're just a little bit inland, 40 miles in. What we do know is that most detections have been made by informed citizens, and what we can do is survey our Grand Rapids hemlocks for the presence of the pest. I was kind of playing around with this a little bit earlier today. Looks like Oak Hill Cemetery, one of our cemeteries in Grand Rapids, has 10 hemlocks that we could survey. And another potential surveying site could be Woodlawn Cemetery. Looks like there's a nice grove of 12 trees right there, a couple others along the property as well, but that would be a really good site to just kind of survey. The pros are that citizen foresters can identify sites and individual trees in their own neighborhood to adopt as a survey site, and they can find those sites using the tree plotter. I always say that the more eyes on our urban forest, the more resilient it will be, and the better equipped that we will be to combating these types of threats. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to Hal for the rest of the session.
Hello, everyone. I thought that was a really interesting. I thought that was a very interesting presentation. Thank you, Daria. We're coming from a very different direction here. Although there's many sort of similarities, I would say, between what we're trying to do and what Daria's organization is already doing and been doing for many years. And we're also operating in a very unique context. We're operating in the industrial district of Los Angeles, which includes Skid Row, which is, everybody knows, is one of the most disadvantaged communities in the country. The area also suffers from one of the highest negative environmental impacts in the state of California due to the large number of warehousing and logistics firms in the area with a lot of truck traffic, and there's also rail lines that go along the LA River, just on the other side of the the Arts District. So we have a very challenging environment to plant in because we not only have to deal with the aspects of the homeless population, which can be difficult, we also have to deal with property owners who are largely disinterested in what we're trying to do. They do not generally support trees. They don't see the purpose of it, especially the commercial property owners. It's just a headache. It's something they don't want to deal with. And then we also have, very arid conditions. And so we have to ensure that our trees make it through a few summers before they get established, because typically we don't get any rain at all from April, May to sort of September, October. And young trees just can't survive that. So we're a little small organization. Just 3 of us work part-time as volunteers, and we have a larger network of volunteers beyond us who help out on an ad hoc basis. One thing I see that Chris is advancing the slides for me here. One thing I should point out about our neighborhood is that it is adjacent to the LA River. So not only is the lack of canopy that we suffer in this area, because it's largely an industrial area, impact the air quality and the UV rays reaching the people who are on the streets. We also have all these hardscapes that just channel stormwater directly into the LA River, which then goes directly out to the coast. And the problem is, because of all the truck traffic, there's an excess of diesel fuel and oil on all the roads in the area. So when it rains, it just washes right into the LA River. And it's another aspect of the sort of environmental problem we're trying to deal with in the area, as well as the social problem. You can advance to the next slide. Chris? This is just what's known as the Cal Enviro screen. This is a model that was developed by the California EPA, and it's essentially a model that's derived from, 30, 40 odd underlying variables that indicate a community's either disadvantaged status by income, education, immigration status, things like this, as health, as well as environmental conditions like air quality, water quality, exposure to the sun, things like this. And as you can see, the whole sort of southern LA area there below downtown is very impacted, and these are a lot of low-income communities that have a lot of industry in them, and a lot of environmental burden and disadvantaged communities in these areas. We're sort of up in the downtown area, just to the east of where you see Los Angeles on the map, which is also in dark red. You can see a couple spots there in the top decile. We're actually, a couple of our zip codes are actually in the top 2 percentile in the 98th percent of the worst, most burdened in the state. Chris, you can advance to the next slide, please. The other way. So, our mission is to begin address this situation by adding trees and caring for the existing trees in the neighborhood wherever possible. Our funding comes in sort of sporadic chunks, you might say, and so sometimes we're very active, sometimes we're more on just a maintenance mode. We're typically doing, I'd say 2 or 3 plantings a year. Right now we're up to 200 trees. And because of the difficult conditions in our target zone, those trees receive approximately 1,400 maintenance visits annually. We also have a education outreach program. A lot of various things we do to reach out to the community, get people to our tree plantings. We typically do 1 volunteer tree planting, or I should say community tree planting, where we engage volunteers from the community to help us plant the trees and whatnot, and spread the word about urban street trees, what they do for the environment and urban sustainability. But our centerpiece of it is what we call the street tree programmers, where we recruit volunteers from the local homeless community to help us with basic tree care activities. And once they get the familiarity with the trees and some basics, they go out and start talking about it to people in the streets. And it helps kind of spread the word in the streets to take care of the trees, not abuse them, look after them, because as they grow and provide shade, it'll make everybody's lives better, you know. And it's been quite helpful in terms of increasing the survival rate of our trees. Now, we're sort of operating in an opposite way to many established nonprofits, certainly like Daria's organization. Our operational model is something I call a virtual outsourced model. And essentially what we're trying to do is just operate as leanly as possible, not maintain a physical presence, leverage whatever technology is out there to enable us to better to do what we do. And we outsource basically our admin, accounting, and legal to a fiscal sponsor. And on the other side, we outsource our planting and maintenance to KYCC Environmental Services. They're one of the large greening organizations in the LA area. And we also use City Plants, which is a city-affiliated nonprofit for in-kind contributions of trees, plantings, and concrete cuts. And we also use volunteers wherever possible for pretty much everything: planting trees, caring for them, noting them, tracking them, helping us work with the software that we've engaged Planet Geo for. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview. We're a tiny little organization with a very small forest, but the nature of how we have to operate, it just makes the maintenance aspect of it very complicated because, to start with, our maintenance grants cover a different number of trees, come from a number of different sources with different stipulations and whatnot, but also cover different numbers of trees, differing time frames, and differing periodicities. Sometimes trees are funded for monthly visits, sometimes for bi-monthly, sometimes for 6 months, sometimes for a year, sometimes for 5 years. And keeping track of all of this on a spreadsheet was just getting to be incredibly burdensome and very difficult for all the details we had to keep track of. It was just a very complicated scenario because we'll typically have, say, 5 maintenance grants at any point in time. And just trying to keep it all straight and ensure that you're spending everybody's money on the right trees over the right time period was very difficult. We also, as I mentioned before, have a maintenance issue with young trees. They're often subject to physical and environmental abuse in our area. They need to be tended to very regularly in the first 2 or 3 years of their lives, or else they will not survive. Another issue is that our trees are scattered across sort of a 3 to 4 square mile area, but they're in sort of small to large clumps. So sometimes it's 2 trees, sometimes it's 10 trees. And this makes it very difficult to kind of track and map them and send out these maintenance teams and find those trees and know which ones to hit and which ones not to hit, and which are our trees and which are not our trees. And like I say in the presentation here, sometimes we'll have the same trees on the same street as somebody else and they're the same species. For aesthetic uniformity, we'll want to just run the same line of trees down the street. And it's difficult for them to know. We've tagged our trees twice now. I should say we're starting to tag them the 3rd time. The first 2 times was with sort of permanent tags, and they're pretty much all gone now or washed out or whatnot. And so we're starting with permanent tags this time. We think we figured out how to do it, and that should eliminate some of that problem. The other thing we do is we try to adjust our maintenance schedules based on the needs of the trees and seasonality and whatnot. So if it's pouring rain out in the middle of winter, we won't go out to see the trees, or we won't go out as much. Whereas in the summertime, we'll go out, oftentimes every 2 weeks, especially for the young trees, to make sure that they get through it. Because we have scarce maintenance resources, we want to make sure we allocate them as efficiently and effectively as possible. So we sort of have a team of scouts out in the field, volunteers, including the street team participants, and they're out there looking at the trees on a monthly basis or more, logging into Tree Plotter and basically updating the status of the trees as needed and indicating what the trees might need in terms of attention or maintenance. The other thing we have to deal with, of course, is we outsource everything, and so that creates coordination issues. And it can be quite frustrating when everything we have to do has to be done through somebody else, and you can't actually just, to make a managerial decision and say, you will do this. it doesn't happen that way. You have to ask people, and you have to wait for them to get around to it, and that creates coordination and miscommunication issues as well. And finally, just keeping the volunteers engaged and communicating with the organization in the process, where it was a bit of a logistical issue as well. So basically, we've needed a technology solution that was sort of supported our complex maintenance needs and our kind of outsourced status as a virtual sort of organization. And we thought about doing it on our own. It was always something in the back of my mind, but I knew we could never really do a good job of it. And I just happened to stumble across Tree Plotter meeting Ian at a conference, and it's just turned out to be a huge benefit because it really gives us the flexibility to kind of, support all the little funny niche things that we do. And our organization is growing and changing, and it's always evolving, so we can't really have anything set in stone at this point. We need a piece of software that allows us to sort of tweak it on the margins to, fit our needs as we grow and evolve as an organization. But the nice thing now is that we're starting to develop this kind of seamless, virtuous cycle of the people and the tree monitors who are feeding the information on the trees into the system. I'm using that information to generate maintenance reports, schedules, and maps, and then that information goes to our maintenance partner, KYCC, who then fulfills the maintenance request and then provides their own feedback, which I then log into the system. And so we're just kind of starting to create this virtual cycle now, which is just a huge benefit to the trees, especially in getting through summer without too many casualties. Next slide, Chris. This is just a slide that we put in our introductory document about Tree Plotter, just to sort of highlight basically what it does to us and give people an idea of what it looks like, and spark their curiosity. People like this technology. We had a little display going at our last fundraiser. We had a lot of people coming over for demos. They really liked it and just saw the flexibility of it and how useful it is. It's a great little tool. Next slide. So I just wanted to sort of quickly go through some of the specific functionality that's been very helpful to us. We can now plot trees with very detailed location information, of course, XY coordinates. We can track trees' conditions in very high level of detail, log the monthly observations of the tree monitors, as I mentioned, enter monthly maintenance instructions, dynamically allocate maintenance resources on a highest need basis, as we discussed, and issue bi-monthly maintenance schedules, especially in the summertime. And this is probably one of the biggest things, was dynamically mapping the trees included in the maintenance runs. So every month or every 2 weeks, the number of trees and the location of the trees that are being covered is changing. It's never the same set of trees every month or every 2 weeks. So this makes it very confusing to make sure which trees are being allocated, which grant money, and then make sure that the maintenance team hits those trees and not other trees. And the mapping I used to do manually by hand, essentially, and it was very tedious and time-consuming. And now I can just basically zoom in on the trees I need. I can drop out the ones I don't need to show, zoom in the ones I need to show, and then just drop it into a PowerPoint and turn it into a report. And our maintenance partners just love it. They say that our reports are way better than any they get from any of their other clients. And finally, it allows us, of course, to log the feedback from the KYCC maintenance team and use that, of course, to generate next month's reports. So I just wanted to quickly here at the end just kind of just quickly show you, if you could switch to, oh no, I need to do this, don't I, Chris? I need to
share your screen, and we're going to do a quick live demo here. If folks can stick around, I know it's always great to see things in action and rather than just slides. So if you're able to share your screen, Hal, we'll get into the live demo real quick here. All right, great.
Can everybody see that? Is it coming through?
It's loading for us.
Okay.
Yeah, it's loading.
So basically, anyway, very quickly here, you can see here we're going to have a little bit of lag here as I zoom in and out and everything, and it feeds the image through. But you can see here we're right along the LA River here, which is on the right side of us here, the railroad tracks along the side of it. Our trees are concentrated sort of in this area right in here. It's, like I said, it's a very barren area. There's almost no tree canopy in this area. It's almost exclusively warehouses right now, and sort of SRO housing more over in this area where Skid Row is. The beauty of like I was saying with this software is really the mapping functionality. That it just allows us to really allow all of our volunteers and our maintenance teams to quickly find the trees they need to in the field. And because you can see how scattered they are and how clumped up they are, like in this quadrant here, we were able to plant a whole street. But that rarely is possible because we normally don't get that much buy-in from property owners. So then you can see in these other spots we got 3 trees over here, and then over here we've got a handful, and then down here we've got 1. And it's just very difficult with this kind of geography and distribution of our trees to sort of, or it had been, I should say, to get everybody on the same page and make sure everybody's talking about the same tree. So as you can see here, over here, I've got the legend window up. I can just drop out none. I've got this set here to display by primary maintenance, which is the field we use to decide whether or not a tree gets attention in a given month or a 2-week period. And so I can just drop out all the trees that weren't assigned maintenance for whatever reason, which is none, and the plant tree, which are just wells essentially here. And then we've got 77 trees left which actually need maintenance, say, over the upcoming period. And then with far fewer trees to look at, I can just zoom in on the ones that need attention and group them together. And then it's very easy for the team to find them. They can see very clearly the cross streets, they can see the trees on the ground, and they can see the ID numbers, which shortly will be on the tags we put on the trees in this next round of tagging. Very quickly, I'll show one more piece of functionality that we use over here. It's basically the sorting function, the filtering function. Actually, I get to it through the tree here. One other thing that we really like is that under the tree detail, you've got quite a bit of location information, which helps people identify the tree in the street. We give the cross street the address, then we give the sort of not only the street address but the location relative to the address. And I love this that you've got single family, multifamily, industrial, commercial. It helps ID the building. And then this is over here is where we sort of even specify what maintenance that the team needs to perform for the tree. Anyway, so back to the exporter here. Just take a little bit of time to load here. So what's very useful about this is because we have this sort of dynamic, continually changing maintenance schedule, it's very convenient to have all of our trees in this one database. And first thing I can do is just choose the fields I want. So I don't need, say, code. I don't need DBH for these exercises. I don't need genus, land use, last modified, Latin name. Actually, I do need land use. Some of these. So I just get rid of some of these and then refresh it and then it shrinks it down to just those fields that we need to work with. And then what I do is I go to the filter function here, and I choose primary maintenance, which is the field that we key our maintenance visits off of. And things going a little sort of squirrely on me here. There's primary maintenance. Having trouble scrolling down here. I don't know what's going on here. It's already teed up. Oh, here we go. Okay, so primary maintenance. And I just come down here to small tree routine. Although there's all these other options you can choose. Hit apply. And then I just export this thing straight into Excel. And I have all the trees, just the trees I need specified by small tree routine. I've got just the key information I need to show the maintenance team over here. The key information, address information, location information, species, condition, field ID, whatnot, latitude, longitude. And this way, the volunteers and the tree maintenance people can look at this information, update it as needed, provide the comments, and follow the instructions. And it's very easy for me to just take this in Excel and drop it into a PowerPoint with the map images and generate a PDF. So that's about it. That's all I had, really.
Thanks, Hal. That's great. Yeah, it just was a little lagging because of internet connection issues, but I liked how you were able to show from getting the volunteers involved and then using the data to create those lists for them to track and go out and do the maintenance or check what needs done. If you want to, bear with me here while I switch to my screen to wrap everything up, everybody. Just wanted to give a summary. These two presentations, they're showing very diverse areas dealing with different issues, the different climates and ecosystems for the trees, but it comes again to that comment we made where it's full circle, where you're dealing with getting the trees in the ground, then tracking them for maintenance. And then a key component, it sounds like from both of these programs, is being able to get volunteers engaged and also finding an efficient way to track the maintenance and the varied maintenance and schedules. And so you both gave great presentations on how you're being efficient with your programs and utilizing volunteers and getting them engaged. So I just want to wrap up here. I appreciate everyone sticking around, both great presentations. We do have 2 other webinars coming up in our summer webinar series, and this information is available at treeplotter.com if you go to webinars, but we do have one the 23rd of August and then the 30th, same time. And then also for those that attended or watched the recording of this webinar, I'll provide the ISA CEU code, International Society of Arboriculture, and that will be sent in an email through the registrations and attendees. And lastly, I'm going to make this a little smaller and then open it up to any questions that I see in the chat box. But there's our contact information if you have any questions. And after this presentation, there's a link to a short survey that's optional if you'd like to take that and provide your feedback. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for the presentation and for sticking around just for a little bit longer so that we could do a live demo to show how Hal is using it out in the field. And I also want to thank the presenters for taking the time and describing their programs in detail. So I'll leave it open for any questions in the chat box, and I'll read those off if they come in and either answer them or let Daria and Hal answer the questions. Well, I think with that, I'll wrap this webinar up. And again, thank everyone for attending. And stay tuned for the ISA CEU codes and the optional survey. Daria and Hal, thank you. Really appreciate you presenting today. And it's great to learn more about your program, and glad to see the tools and the data being put to use. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure, definitely.
Likewise.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon, and enjoy your day.